The lie that began with humiliation. They said powerful men never fall. They said arrogant millionaires always land on their feet. And for years Leonard Hale had proven them right. At 39, Leonard Hale was untouchable. A self-made real estate tycoon with sharp suits, sharper words, and a reputation for crushing anyone who stood between him and profit. He didn't just buy land, he took it, exploiting desperation, loopholes, and silence. Rural communities were his favorite prey. People without lawyers, without power, without choices. And that morning he had just destroyed another one. His black luxury SUV sped away from the small farming town of Ridgewood Vale, dust rising behind it like a final insult. In the back seat, Leonard flipped through contracts with a satisfied smirk. 200 acres. 15 families displaced. A multimillion-dollar resale deal already lined up. "Sir," his assistant muttered nervously from the front seat, "the community leaders are asking for one more meeting. They're begging." Leonard shut the folder with a sharp snap. "There's nothing to discuss." They signed. "Poverty makes people emotional. That's not my problem." To Leonard Hale, compassion was a weakness and kindness was a tool used only when profitable. The road curved sharply through farmland. The driver accelerated. And then, out of nowhere, a slow tractor pulled onto the road. The impact was violent. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. The SUV flipped, rolling down an embankment before crashing into silence. By the time the dust settled, the man who had ruled boardrooms and bulldozed lives lay unconscious, bleeding, and completely powerless. Across town, Elena Carter was wrestling a stubborn goat back into its pen when the ambulance siren screamed past. She froze. Another accident on that curve. Elena wiped sweat from her brow, her dark hair escaping its braid. Life had never been gentle with her, but she had learned to be tougher than it. At 29, she carried the weight of her entire family on her shoulders. Aging parents, a struggling farm, and 3 foster children she had taken in after a tragedy no one else wanted to deal with. "Probably some city idiot speeding," her father muttered. Elena didn't respond. Something in her chest felt tight. That evening the local news confirmed it. Business magnate Leonard Hale remains in critical condition following a severe crash earlier today. Elena's hands clenched. That name. The man who had bullied her neighbors into selling. The man who laughed while families cried. The man who was already circling Ridgewood Vale like a vulture. "He's in a coma," her mother whispered, crossing herself. Elena didn't feel relief. She felt something darker. Something dangerous. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and quiet despair. Elena didn't know why she was there. She told herself she just wanted to see the face of the man who had caused so much damage. Maybe to pray. Maybe to remind herself that monsters were human too. At the nurse's desk, she hesitated. "I'm looking for Leonard Hale." "Family only," the nurse replied tiredly. Then lowering her voice, "Room 312. But he's different." "Different how?" Elena found out moments later, hiding behind a pillar as a sharply dressed man argued with a doctor. "He doesn't remember anything," the doctor said firmly. "Severe head trauma. Amnesia. He doesn't know who he is." Elena's breath caught. "He woke up asking his name," the doctor continued. "His past may never come back." The assistant ran a hand through his hair, panic breaking through professionalism. This could ruin everything. Elena's heart pounded. The arrogant millionaire. The predator. The destroyer of lives. A man with no memory. For the first time Leonard Hale was helpless. And in that moment, Elena Carter made a decision that would change both their lives forever. She waited until the assistant left. Her legs felt heavy as she stepped into the dim hospital room. Machines hummed softly. The man in the bed was larger than she expected. His presence still commanding, even broken and bandaged. His eyes opened. Confused. Vulnerable. Human. "Who are you?" he rasped. Elena could have turned around. She could have told the truth. She could have walked away and let fate handle justice. Instead, she swallowed her fear and said the words that would haunt her. "I'm Elena," she said quietly. "I'm your wife." His eyes widened. "My wife? You were in an accident," she continued, her voice steady despite her heart racing. "You don't remember. But I'm here. I won't leave you." "What's my name?" he whispered. Her throat tightened. "You're Leonard," she said. "Leonard Carter. You're a farmer. You live with me. And we have children." The lie hung in the air, heavy and irreversible. That night, Elena stood in her kitchen, shaking as she told her family everything. Her father was furious. Her mother was terrified. Her grandfather called it poetic justice. This is wrong, her father insisted. You're lying to a broken man. I'm showing him reality, Elena snapped back. The kind he never cared about. Silence followed. Finally, her mother spoke. Maybe God didn't erase his memory by accident. No one slept that night. 3 days later, a taxi stopped in front of the Carter farmhouse. Leonard Hale, now Leonard Carter, stepped out wearing borrowed clothes, uncertainty etched across his face. Elena met him on the porch. This is home, she said. He looked around slowly. The animals, the worn wood, the simplicity. Then he looked at her and hugged her like she was the only thing anchoring him to the world. I don't remember loving you, he whispered. But I feel like I did. Elena closed her eyes. She had wanted justice. She had wanted karma. She hadn't expected this. And as she led him inside, she realized the lie had already begun to take on a life of its own. The arrogant man learns humility. Leonard Carter woke before dawn. The sounds were unfamiliar, soft animal noises, distant wind brushing through trees, the low creak of an old farmhouse settling into morning. His body ached in places he didn't understand, his head throbbed with a dull reminder that something inside him was broken. He stared at the ceiling, trying to remember who he had been before the accident. There was nothing. No boardrooms. No luxury. No past. Only Elena. She lay beside him, turned slightly away, her breathing steady but tense, as if even sleep couldn't fully relax her. Leonard studied her face in the dim light. Strong features. Calloused hands. A quiet resilience that made him feel small and safe at the same time. His wife. The word still felt unreal but comforting. Careful not to wake her, Leonard slid out of bed and dressed. The clothes were simple, worn jeans, a thick flannel shirt, but something about them felt right, honest. Downstairs, the farmhouse was already alive. Up already? Elena's mother asked, surprised, handing him a mug of strong coffee. I wanted to help, Leonard replied. Her father grunted from the table. We'll see how long that lasts. Leonard didn't take offense. Something deep inside him insisted he had once been the kind of man people distrusted instantly. So, he wanted to be different now. Outside, the morning air was sharp and clean. Elena was already in the yard, boots on, hair tied back, moving with purpose. Leonard watched her for a moment before stepping forward. Tell me what to do, he said. She hesitated, then handed him a bucket. Follow me. By sunrise, Leonard had learned 3 things. First, farm work was brutal. Second, he was terrible at it. Third, failure bruised his pride more than any injury. He spilled feed, startled chickens, and nearly lost a boot in thick mud. Elena corrected him patiently, but her father watched closely, arms crossed, waiting for him to quit. Leonard didn't. When his arms shook, he kept going. When sweat burned his eyes, he wiped it away. When a goat kicked him square in the thigh, he laughed instead of cursing. Something about this life demanded humility, and for reasons he couldn't explain, he welcomed it. During breakfast, the children clung to him as if he had always been theirs. One asked him to tie a shoe. Another climbed into his lap. The baby wrapped her tiny fingers around his. Leonard felt something crack open inside his chest. He had built nothing like this before. Nothing that felt real. By the end of the week, Leonard had blisters, bruises, and a deep respect for the people he worked beside. But the world didn't forget who he used to be. At the town market, whispers followed him. That's him. The land shark. Doesn't even remember what he did. Elena felt every stare like a knife. Leonard noticed, but instead of anger, he felt shame he couldn't fully explain. I've hurt people, he said quietly as they walked home. Haven't I? Elena's steps faltered. Yes, she admitted. You have. Leonard stopped walking. I don't remember it, but I want to fix it. Her heart pounded. This wasn't part of the plan. The plan was to humble him, to make him understand loss, struggle, humanity. Not to redeem him. You can't fix everything, she said softly. I know, he replied. But I want to try. That night, Elena lay awake staring at the ceiling. She had wanted karma. She had wanted him to suffer. She had wanted him to feel powerless. Instead, she was watching a powerful man learn humility from the ground up, and it terrified her. Because the more he changed, the harder it became to justify the lie. Leonard turned toward her, voice low. I don't know who I was, he said. But whoever I am now, I like him better. Elena closed her eyes. So did she. The breaking point came days later. A well-dressed man arrived at the farm in a luxury car that didn't belong anywhere near Ridgewood Vale. Elena recognized him instantly. Leonard's assistant. Her blood ran cold. Leonard stepped onto the porch, confused by the stranger's intensity. "Leonard Hale," the man said sharply. "We need to talk." Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. Leonard frowned. "That's not my name." The assistant froze. Elena stepped forward, her voice firm but shaking. "You're mistaken. This is Leonard Carter." The man stared between them, suspicion growing. Leonard looked at Elena, searching her face for answers. "Do you know him?" he asked. She swallowed. "No," she said. It was the most dangerous lie she had told yet. The assistant left, but not convinced. And as his car disappeared down the road, Elena knew something had changed. The past was hunting them now. And no lie, no matter how carefully built, could last forever. When the lie becomes love. The past did not return all at once. It crept in quietly. Leonard began waking with headaches that felt different from before, sharper, heavier, like something inside his mind was knocking from the other side. Flashes came without warning. The reflection of glass towers, the echo of polished floors, the smell of expensive cologne that didn't belong on a farm. He never mentioned them. Not at first. Because every time he looked at Elena, standing in the doorway with flour on her cheek, kneeling in the dirt beside the children, laughing softly at the dinner table, those half-memories felt wrong. Like they belonged to a stranger he didn't want to meet. The man he was becoming here felt better. Elena noticed the change immediately. Leonard had always been attentive since the accident, but now there was something deeper in his gaze, an intensity mixed with restraint. He studied people more, listened longer, asked questions that had nothing to do with work. "Do you think people can really change?" he asked one evening as they watched the sunset from the porch. "Yes," Elena said carefully. "If they want to." Leonard nodded slowly. "I think I used to believe power meant never needing anyone. And now I think power is choosing not to crush people when you can." Elena's chest tightened. He was learning the lesson she had wanted to force on him, without punishment, without humiliation. And that scared her more than if he had stayed arrogant. The town slowly softened. People noticed Leonard helping repair fences that weren't his, carrying groceries for elders who didn't trust him yet, apologizing, even when no one asked him to. "Doesn't matter if he remembers or not," one farmer muttered. "He's trying." Elena heard that and felt both relief and dread. Because if Leonard ever remembered who he truly was, he would realize exactly who he had hurt. And exactly who had lied to him. The tension finally snapped one night during a storm. Rain battered the farmhouse, thunder rattling the windows. The children slept piled together in one room, comforted by Leonard's presence earlier. Elena sat at the kitchen table, nerves frayed, when Leonard staggered in from outside, drenched and pale. "I remembered something," he said hoarsely. Her breath stopped. "A boardroom," he continued. "Men in suits. Papers on a table. Someone crying." He looked at her. "Was that me?" Elena stood frozen. "Yes," she whispered. "That was you." Leonard dragged a chair back and sat heavily. "I was cruel," he said. "I can feel it. Even without details, I know." Tears welled in Elena's eyes. "You destroyed lives," she admitted. "Including mine." Silence swallowed the room. Leonard bowed his head, shoulders shaking, not with rage but with shame. "I don't deserve this life," he said. "I don't deserve you." Elena almost told him the truth then. Almost. That night Leonard didn't touch her. Instead, he sat on the edge of the bed, staring into the darkness. "I love you," he said quietly. Elena turned away so he wouldn't see her cry. Because she loved him too. And love built on lies was the most dangerous thing of all. The next morning, everything shattered. A black SUV rolled into the driveway, too clean, too expensive, too familiar. The assistant returned. But this time he wasn't alone. 2 lawyers stepped out behind him. Elena's hands shook as Leonard stepped onto the porch. "Leonard Hale," one lawyer said formally. "You've been declared mentally fit for reassessment." Leonard felt it then, the final piece clicking into place. His name. His empire. His sins. His memories came crashing back like a wave. He staggered, gripping the railing. Elena rushed forward, but he pulled away. "You knew," he said, voice breaking. "You knew who I was." She couldn't deny it anymore. "Yes. You lied to me." "Yes. You used me." "Yes." The words burned, but she didn't look away. "I did it to save my people," she said fiercely. "And somewhere along the way, you saved yourself." Leonard laughed bitterly. "So this was justice?" "No," she whispered. "This was mercy you never earned." Leonard left with them that afternoon. No gudjekis. No imbras. No forgiveness. Elena watched from the porch, her heart splintering as the man she loved drove away as the man she once hated. The children cried for him that night. So did she. The price of truth. Leonard Hale returned to a world that no longer fit him. The penthouse apartment felt sterile. The silence was louder than the farm had ever been. Glass walls reflected a man he barely recognized, tailored suit, expensive watch, sharp jawline hardened by regret. His empire waited for him with open arms. His conscience did not. In boardrooms, executives smiled with relief. Contracts were pushed across polished tables. Numbers were celebrated. Apologies were not. Leonard listened, detached. Every deal felt heavier now. Every signature carried faces he could no longer forget. Calloused hands, tired eyes, children clinging to hope. Especially Elena's. At Ridgewood Vale, the damage of Leonard's departure was immediate. Buyers returned. Deadlines reappeared. Pressure mounted. The same machine that Leonard had built was now moving without him. Elena fought back with everything she had. She rallied neighbors. Filed injunctions. Spoke at council meetings where men in suits rolled their eyes at a stubborn woman with dirt under her nails. You manipulated him, one official sneered. Now you want sympathy? Elena's total. I wanted justice. And I showed him what humanity looks like. They laughed. But the town listened. Leonard couldn't sleep. Night after night, he dreamed of muddy boots by the door. Of children's laughter. Of Elena standing in the rain, unflinching. He canceled meetings. Ignored calls. Then one evening he did something unthinkable. He opened the contracts. And for the first time he read them like a victim would. His chest tightened. He saw every loophole he had abused. Every desperation he had exploited. Every lie he had told himself. And he broke. The next board meeting ended in chaos. Leonard stood up, palms flat against the table. I'm dissolving the Ridgewood Vale acquisitions, he said. Gasps filled the room. You'll lose millions, one investor snapped. Leonard looked up, eyes clear. I already lost everything that mattered. They threatened lawsuits. Pulled funding. Called him unstable. Leonard didn't care. Elena didn't know any of this when the letter arrived. It wasn't from a lawyer. It was handwritten. I was a monster. You showed me who I could have been. I don't ask forgiveness. Only the chance to do one thing right. Her hands trembled. The day Leonard returned to Ridgewood Vale, the town gathered. Not with pitchforks, but with caution. He stood before them, no suit, no speechwriters. I won't ask you to forget, he said. I won't ask you to forgive. I only ask to undo what I can. He signed the papers publicly. Land returned. Debts erased. Futures restored. People cried. People shouted. Some walked away. Elena walked silently. When the crowd thinned, Leonard approached her. I loved you, he said. Even when it was a lie. It wasn't, she replied. Not in the ways that mattered. They stood there, broken but honest. For what it's worth, Leonard added, you made me a better man. Elena nodded. And you taught me the cost of playing God. Justice without hatred. Ridgewood Vale did not transform overnight. Fields still needed tending. Homes still needed repair. Trust, once broken, did not magically return just because a powerful man decided to do the right thing. But something had shifted. For the first time in years, people worked without fear of losing everything tomorrow. And Leonard Hale stayed. Not as a savior. Not as a hero. But as a man willing to carry the weight of what he had done. He moved into a small rented house on the edge of town. No security. No assistance. Just work boots, early mornings, and the quiet humility of starting from zero. Some people ignored him. Some insulted him openly. Some tested him relentlessly. Leonard accepted all of it. Because he knew redemption was not something you demanded. It was something you earned, slowly. Elena kept her distance. She needed to. Seeing Leonard every day, working beside neighbors he had once crushed, pulled at parts of her she was still trying to protect. She watched him lift hay bales, fix fences, listen more than he spoke. He had changed. Truly changed. But love didn't erase betrayal. One afternoon, Elena found him sitting alone near the old oak tree where they used to watch sunsets. I didn't come to convince you of anything, Leonard said quietly when he saw her. I just wanted to say thank you. For what? She asked. For not letting me stay who I was. Elena crossed her arms. I lied to you. Yes, he replied. And I deserved the mirror you held up. They stood in silence, wind moving through the grass. I don't expect us to be anything, Leonard added. But I needed you to know, What we had changed me forever. Elena nodded, tears burning her eyes. Weeks passed. Life stabilized. The town rebuilt, not just physically but emotionally. And one evening, the children asked the question Elena had been dreading. Why doesn't Leonard live here anymore? She knelt beside them, choosing honesty for the first time. Because sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, she said gently. And the bravest thing is admitting them. They nodded, accepting more than adults ever could. On the final day Leonard planned to leave Ridgewood Vale for good. The town surprised him. They gathered in the square, not to celebrate him but to acknowledge the truth. A farmer stepped forward. You heard us. Leonard nodded. I know. But you stayed when you could have run, the man continued. That matters. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was enough. Leonard packed his things at dawn. As he loaded the last box into his car, Elena appeared. She didn't speak at first. Then she said, I was stubborn and brave, but also wrong in some ways. Leonard smiled sadly. And I was arrogant and cruel, until you forced me to see. They stood close but not touching. I don't know what comes next, Elena said. Leonard nodded. Neither do I. But whatever it is, I'll face it honestly. They shared a quiet embrace. No promises, no illusions. Just respect. As Leonard drove away, Elena felt something unexpected. Not loss. Relief. She had stood up to power. She had defended her people. She had chosen courage over comfort. And she had learned that justice doesn't always look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like change.